We're going to continue by adding paint and color to paper so that we'll be ready to collage. And some of our things will need to add paint, and so here's a whole lot of different techniques of fun things that you can do. And I've got some naphthol red and a really wide brush that I have just dipped once in water. And here is a piece of cardstock. And you might want a solid red, solid black, other solid pieces. But the cardstock is, excuse me, fugitive. Or construction paper is fugitive, either one, which means the color will fade. So if you want that to be red solid color on your paper and not fade into your collage, then you will need to give it a coat of red like I have just done, and then set that aside to dry. And anything, now it looks just red as it did before, anything like that that you want to use, you want to be able to do that. This is a quick print that I made as an example, and if I decide I want it to have color other than white behind it, this is called a glaze of color. I can come in with red on top of that. I'm going to leave half of it undone so that you can see what it looks like when it dries. It should be darker around the pink than the pink was there, that it was a lighter pink shade like this. You can always add a contrasting color, but I'm going to just let that dry. That was just watery red. And then often your pieces of shape, like your clay, your printed board, your plaster of Paris, can be easily added with one color and then highlighted with your finger with the finishing technique. So here I've colored this one red. It's got it along the edges. I'll leave it and let it dry. Okay, and so for the first one, I've got cardboard here, and I've already got some paint on it. It's something there. Maybe it's plaster of Paris. But for all these things, we're going to start wet on wet. So I'm going to add real watery color across the whole piece of brown board here. And probably don't have enough paint in the paint, so I'm going to put a little bit more paint out. And we're going to use salt with this experiment. Now this has to be pretty wet to do a lot of these different things. This one, since I have red and brown, wherever I put salt, it is going to make a little star snowflake like shape. But it cannot be dry at all when you add your salt. It needs to be really quite red. It's almost runny red as you look at that. So and then I'm just going to take this table salt that I have in my cup, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of that out, and we'll let it dry, and you'll get to see the first experiment of what that does to my board. Here is the red cardstock with red on it, and I think it looks every bit as red as it did before. It's just more light fast. It's no longer fugitive. Here is the pink print with red paint and different paint on it. Here's another one, and I've left the center white so you can see what it looks like without color to it. So you'll have to decide whether or not you want to paint any of your prints. Here is the salt, and all those little spots that you're seeing on this is where the salt sucked up the paint and made pattern. I think it's more dramatic on this piece here. You can see quite a lot of texture from the salt.